Yo, what's up? What's up? What's up? This your boy Paris Harrington, and this is the first episode of Life Untold. I'd like to welcome everybody to this warm podcast that we're going to be starting. This has been on my mind for a while, and I am glad to finally be taking all the precautions, the steps, the knowledge, everything to go ahead and get it started. So, briefly, I'm just going to let you know what the podcast is about. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be interviewing quite a few people that come on here. Everything from local people that I know, people that I've known throughout my life, different, possibly some politicians, actors, you name it. We're going to reach out and we're going to try to get that started. A little bit about myself. So I'm from Chicago, Illinois, but I grew up in Jackson, Mississippi. Me personally, my mom passed away in 1996 and my pops passed away in 1992. Was adopted by my great auntie, Peggy Harrington. Thus my last name, Harrington. She was my great aunt, and she took us in, adopted us, changed our last name from Washington to Harrington, and grew up in Jackson, Mississippi. Ended up graduating from Merle High School in 2007, where I ended up joining the United States Marine Corps. Funny thing about that is everybody thought I was crazy. I'm not gonna lie, everybody thought I was crazy, thought I was losing my mind, thought I was gonna die, all type of stuff. But the reason why I ended up joining the Marine Corps was because when the recruiter actually came and talked to us, I was just like, man, he said, hey, if you want to stand on your own 2 feet and you want to be a self-sufficient adult at the age of 18, we can help do that. Not gonna lie, I did try a couple of the other branches, but I could not pass the ASVAB to save my life. It was crazy work. So I took the ASVAB at the school, did terrible at it. Ended up taking it with the with the Mississippi National Guard. My best friend, Will Gibbs, he had already joined the National Guard the month before, like I want to say a couple months before that. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to join up with my boy Will. And I could not pass the ASVAB to save my life. So I had one more time to take the ASVAB during my senior year. And I was like, man, this is crazy work, bro. I have to pass it. And when the Marine recruiter came to my actual school, he was like, man, I can help you pass that. I was like, all right, cool. I thought he was going to help me study. The dude gave me like this pamphlet, and the pamphlet just had like ways to study, and I didn't even look at it. And he's like, come down to my office this afternoon and then I got you. I was like, okay, cool. So I'll go down there. Didn't do nothing. He gave me what I know now is called the East, which is like a basic test to see where you would stand on the ASVAB. He's like, don't mess this up. I said, okay. Went in there, took it, passed it. I was like, okay, cool. He's like, we sending you down the maps. It was that quick. From there, I ended up joining up, ended up getting my first duty station. Was Marine Corps boot camp hard? Yes, the hardest thing you ever do in your entire life. I hated every second of it. From the moment I left, I was just like devastated. I was like, why would I come here? What would make me want to do this? I just was distraught the whole time. I was like, why would my mom and dad let me come here? My brother and my friend John and everybody was right. I should have never brought my butt here. But it was the best decision that I had ever made in my entire life. Ended up graduating from there and ended up getting stationed in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, where I ended up deploying 22nd MEU. We ended up going to Iraq. Ended up going on a MEU. Ended up coming back during Christmas. Ended up getting deployed again to go to Haiti during the earthquake in 2010. And then when I got back, I ended up getting stationed in New Orleans. Down there, that's why I ended up meeting my wife. She's from Mississippi. But ended up meeting her when I went back home on leave one time, and from there it was like a wrap. We ended up getting married, ended up getting stationed in Hawaii, where we ended up having our baby girl. And from there, ended up coming out from Hawaii, ended up getting stationed back in Louisiana again on recruiting duty, which was the most rewarding, hardest job that I've ever done in my life. Been deployed, been overseas, and recruiting is one of the hardest things that I ever did, but it's also the most rewarding. Reason why is just because you see people that want a way out like yourself, and they don't know how they're going to do it. And then you give them that way out, and you tell them up front, hey, it's going to be hard, it's going to be tough, but hey, we're here for it. From there, ended up getting stationed at the Pentagon. And then I ended up getting medically retired while I was at the Pentagon working. So, but that's kind of like the overview of me, what I've been doing since I've been out the military. I said I was going to take full advantage of all of my education benefits. So I ended up starting to go to school. I told myself I was going to hit every single degree possible. So I started at University of Maryland, ended up going and getting my associate degree in just regular arts. Ended up going to St. Martin University out in Seattle for criminal justice and criminology. And right now I'm attending Alabama A&M as with my master's in public administration and with a concentration on criminal justice administration. I'll be finishing up that this year, and I am looking for my school that I will be doing my PhD program. The reason why I chose all those schools specifically was because I told myself once I get done with this learning curve of getting my PhD, I don't want anyone to be able to say, you didn't learn or you learned at the wrong institution. I learned from every institution possible. So University of Maryland Global Campus is online. St. Martin is a PWI, and it is a very, very rich school. Then you have Alabama A&M, which is a HBCU. And the next college that I go to for my PhD, I want to be a large institution that you think of when you think of college. So we're talking possibly University of Tennessee, Mississippi State, any of those big colleges like that, so I can say I learned from all avenues. The goal of my podcast is to just spread people's word, to be able to give knowledge out, to show different walks of life, to show how people got from point A to point B. When I do this podcast, I want to be able to not only talk to people, but be able to maybe unlock some of the different things. I'm not going to lie, I have a lot of inspiration from different podcasters out there. I got a couple of buddies that do podcasts. I've been wanting to do podcasts for a minute, so that is the wife. Say hello. I'm recording my first episode of my podcast. So she said she's in and she's out. That's the wifey. But I have a lot of inspiration that comes behind it. Shannon Sharp, man, the thing that he does on his podcast is just amazing. So I want to give kudos and shout out to the Shay Shay podcast that's on YouTube. And the wow part about it is I've been wanting to do that for a while. I just never pulled the trigger on it or anything like that. And to me, it's already what I've been doing my entire life. So when I was a recruiter, I would sit down and talk to young men, young women from the ages of, 16 all the way to 32 about some of the different goals they have in life, what they've done with their life, how they're going to plan to get to their goals. Some of these people have been very successful, making a lot of money, and some of them have made no money. Some of them have a lot of goals accomplished. Some of them have no goals accomplished. I've had people making $200,000 that walked into my Marine Corps office, no bull, and working at a plant, and they just like, I don't have the fulfillment that I need in my life, and I feel like the Marine Corps and serving my country could be what I'm looking for. So with this podcast, I think that's ultimately what I want to be able to accomplish, is to be able to spread the word of different people and be able to let the world see that. Some of the different topics we're going to discuss, that's the little one. That's somebody. Hey, they waited till the good time to come and show their face. So I love them to death. But I wanted to be able to spread different topics. So some topics I might have somebody on that's a nurse. Some people I might have on that's a doctor. Some people might be, a school teacher. Some people might be actor. Some people might be actress, rappers, singers. I'm not going to discriminate against anybody, any color, any race, any gender. If I feel like they bring value to the podcast and just people's acknowledgement of them being aware of different viewpoints, I definitely want to sit down and talk to them. I think the main thing that I would really like to see is for me to be able to get started and get the first couple of people on there. Some of the different things that I'm going to talk about today is how my career has gotten me to this point. If you're in the military or you're in any type of career, you have to set goals. And the reason why I say you have to set goals is because if you don't, it's like running on a treadmill. You can do a lot of things, but if you don't have a reason why you're doing it, you're going to find yourself lost. That's for sure. One thing that somebody told me when I started my Marine Corps career was that, hey man, don't ever do the same assignment twice. Don't ever do it twice. And what they meant by that is if you've already been, so for me, I was military police. If you've already been military police field side, don't ever choose a duty station that sends you back field side again. Because if not, you're not helping your resume at all. So when I got done with my first 4 years in the Marine Corps, I had already done all my deploying. I had deployed 3 times, and I never deployed again. I mean, I've been to different countries after that. I've been all over the U.S., but I never deployed in the capacity of the war environment again. And it was because they would ask me, "Hey, Paris, hey, what you trying to do next?" So how I ended up getting New Orleans, I was just like, man, my mom was getting ready. She was on that sick side. So I was trying to get closer to home. The funny story is not a lot of people know. I had already applied to go to Mississippi State to go criminal justice. Got accepted, and the plan was to get out, go to Mississippi State, get me an apartment, and just sit back and relax. Had one of my first sergeants come up and be like, man, why are you getting out the military, man? The Corps need good people like you. And I was like, man, I know it sounds stupid first sergeant, but yeah, I just want to put a book bag on my back and I just want to be normal for a little bit. The whole sitting around and just doing the military was just not doing it for me. He was like, yo, what if I can get you as close to home as possible and you still be able to wear that military uniform that you got? And I was like, what we talking? He's like, yo, hit me up on Monday. I'm gonna hit you up this weekend. I said, say less. So I didn't understand that he was talking to monitors and different things like that. I remember Saturday night after that Friday when I talked to him. Saturday night, I get my sergeant Sergio Soto. He actually hit me. We were sitting at the bar, and he was like, "Hey, Paris, hold on. This first sergeant called, and he come back to the table. He's like, hey, first sergeant got you orders." I said, man, stop playing. He was like, I'm dead serious. He got you orders to New Orleans, Louisiana. I said, bro, what? Stop it. And he was like, yeah, man, you got to let him know on Monday if you want it or not. I said, you can tell him right now. You can. I said, what is the duty assignment? He's like, yo, it's I duty. So I was just basically being military police down there, but I was also helping with like some of the reservists and different things like that. So I thought that was pretty cool. It was my first time working with what we like to call the McClep or military police civilian cops, where I met a lot of my great mentors and great friends down there. In particular, it was a dude named Jason Peters. It was another dude named Sierra Bilcom, Malone. It was just so many civilians that had a lot of impact on me. They taught me how to control my Marine Corps, I ain't gonna say anger, but temper. We have this weird activity in our head where we feel like we can just talk to people any way we want. Not thinking about this is a human being that we're talking to as opposed to just somebody that's lower in rank. I had to learn that very quickly that, the rank is only so much on your collar as opposed to you treating somebody with respect. Yeah, I always say the quietest day in the military will be a day that nobody can wear rank. It'd be a quiet day. Somebody speak to you, you're going to speak back. Because if not, hey, that rank ain't going to guard you that day. So I always thought that was funny. But, and then from there, like I said, I ended up getting stationed in Hawaii. And funny story, my brother his name Kenneth, he ended up getting stationed in Hawaii because he ended up joining the Marine Corps. Funny thing, the same dude that told me, I don't know why you joining the military, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I ain't trying to hear that. He calls me up out the blue and he's like, man, you know what? Hey, bro, I'm thinking about joining the military. I said, okay. No, he said, I'm thinking about joining the Marine Corps. I said, bro, I don't think you gonna make it. He was like, what you mean? I said, bro, you don't like to listen to people. You do not like to listen to people at all. And he was like, nah, if you can do it, I can do it. I said, come on, shit. Bug it. So, man, no shit, the next like 2 weeks or a month, that boy signed up. And that boy, he ended up doing it. He ended up coming in as a cook. He ends up getting orders, marrying his wife now, Ashley. And he ended up getting stationed in Hawaii. And then he called me up. He's out there. And I hit up my boy Bickham, he was my sergeant at the time on the civilian side. And he was in the reserves as I think like a staff sergeant, or he might have been a gunny. But he was like, hey man, I was like, man, what are the odds I can get to Hawaii? He's like, I can get you to Hawaii right now. I said, boy, stop playing. He's like, yeah, I can get you to Hawaii, bro. Like, no bull. I said, okay, let's see what we can do. Next thing you know, another Monday come around. Like 3 years later, I'm asking Bickham. He's like, Y'all got you orders to Hawaii. I was like, say less. I had my girlfriend at the time, Sasha, and I looked up and I was like, man, I do not want to leave this girl. And next thing you know, I was like, I asked her to marry me, and she said yes. Luckily, I was a lucky guy, and we started our adventure about 7 months after that. After we got married, we got orders to Hawaii, and we ended up getting stationed out in Hawaii. So and then from there, somebody told me out in Hawaii. I had a great time out in Hawaii. I learned a lot about leadership, accountability, and just being aware of your surroundings, to the point where somebody had told me, hey man, you need to do a B billet. You need to, which is like a kind of like a secondary career that you have in the Marine Corps. You know, you always be military police, but to show the Marine Corps, they always say you break a B billet down 3 different ways. A B billet is for you to give back to the organization. So you become a recruiter so that you can find the people to take your place in the Marine Corps. You become a drill instructor if you want to make Marines, or you go and become like MSG, which is like embassy duty to protect the world. So either way it go, I always say those 3 B billets that they have, it helps you to give back to the organization that has made you successful thus far. Because most people that's going on B billets are sergeants, staff sergeants, some gunnies. But that's at the point where you've already like halfway through the rank structure, and you're just like, man, the Corps wants you to get back. And that way you become more competitive for your next promotion. So ended up going recruiting duty, and man, when I tell you we got stationed in Gonzales, Louisiana, man, the times down there, boy. When I tell you it was a time to be had, it was a time to be had. I got the keys to the city to Gonzales right now. The mayor was a Marine. The governor was a former Marine at the time. And man, the lives that we touched, the lessons that I learned, they were unmatched by any. Then from there, I did great out there. I struggled my first 3 months. No, not a lot of people know that. A couple of my close homies know that. But I struggled my first 3 months out there because I couldn't gas the concept that not everyone was qualified to be a Marine. Just because somebody wanted to be one, you still have to meet the criteria to be able to even be eligible to do that. Most people say in their lives, they be like, yo, I'll join the military right now if I wanted to. You say that, but you might not even qualify. You know, you got to get through the medical screening. You got to get through the actual testing. You got to be able to get through the actual preparation to go to boot camp. And I tell people, Marine Corps is the hardest boot camp out of every branch, and no other branch will tell you different. They will tell you that every branch can make you successful and they can make you go on a good path and give you a great career. That is all true. But there is no harder boot camp than the United States Marine Corps boot camp. So, hence why I ended up going, because they were like, hey, you know, you claim you tough, go to boot camp. Say less, say less. So, from there, I was trying to do something special. I wanted to join this thing called the fellowship program out in the Pentagon area. And my CO at the time, which is now I think he's Lieutenant Colonel Kerrigan. Shout out to him. He was like, hey man, I think I can get you some pretty cool orders. I was like, hey, say less. He made a phone call to my monitor at the time, which is the person that controls all of your orders and where you're going to get stationed. And they said, yo, you're a staff sergeant looking at Gunny E7. I was only at I think I was just pushing 11 years. I was fast tracking real quick. I ended up, I think it was like 11. No, I was only at 9, almost 10 years. And they were like, yeah, we got an opening at the Pentagon. You have an extensive record for like administration, military police. You've done the combat side. You've done the humanitarian side. You've done the military, the actual garrison side. So deployment, humanitarian, and garrison. And a lot of people don't know this, but in order to be MOS qualified, you have to do all aspects of the military police field before you can start getting really those special assignments. And what I mean, like MOS qualified, that means you've done all aspects. And not a lot of people in the MP field can say that they've done all aspects of the MP field, because you don't never know when a humanitarian assistant is going to pop off. So that's an aspect of the MP field that some people will never know, because it doesn't happen. You know, I got lucky in 2010, you know, prayers to Haiti for all the earthquakes that happened down there. But, you know, that was a once in a lifetime opportunity to go and help another culture that was in dire need because they were so many people that were hurt and passed away down there. So that kind of jump started my career a lot. Yeah, then I got to the Pentagon, and man, the Pentagon, I will say that thing set me up for success for the rest of my career. The people I met, the great minds that I got to sit next to, some of the subject matter experts for military police field for all branches. That was the first time in my career where I worked hand in hand with every single branch, sitting right next to me, traveling with them, and doing different things like that. So I definitely appreciated that a lot more, especially on the outside. And then I ended up getting injured. And when I ended up getting injured, I ended up getting medically retired. The reason why, because I ended up having a back surgery, 3 of them to be exact. Had my first one in 2013. Then I felt like Superman. Felt like I could do anything. I think after I had my first back surgery, I ended up going to run the Hawaii Marathon. Started running like crazy. I started like I think out in Hawaii, I ended up starting a fitness business. I was just feeling like I didn't never know I was that injured to the point where I wasn't feeling. I just like body aches and stuff. But when they fixed my back, boy, your boy was on it. So when I got to DC, I was my first time in my career that I actually ran a second class PT test, whether it was CFT or PFT. And one of my corporals was making jokes. Oh, that recruiting duty got you a little lazy, Staff Sergeant. I looked at him. I said, "What'd you say to me?" He was like, "I ain't say nothing, Staff Sergeant." I said, "Say less." But I knew what he meant because I was slow. So I went to the doctor. They're like, "Yeah, your disc slipped out again." I was like, "God damn." So they did an emergency surgery. And then they like, this might work, this might not work. Then it waited about 5 months and ended up the surgery didn't work, so they went in like a week after that and did another surgery, and that's when they fused my back from L4 all the way to S2. So yeah, that kind of ended my career. How did I feel after that? I was devastated, man. I felt like my whole life was ending. That's all I knew since the age of 17. And when they told me that I was no longer going to be able to be a United States Marine, man, I thought it was just over. And it was an adjustment period. It was a big adjustment period just because I couldn't do any of the things that I wanted to do in life anymore. Like I couldn't play basketball because of my back. I couldn't play football. And that was stuff that I was doing. I had got to play on the all Marine Corps basketball team. I got to play, do a lot of track events, obstacle course events, rifle range events. When I say events, I mean I got put into competitions throughout my career where I actually got to play against other Marines, other branches, civilians, top agencies. So one time we went to a rifle exhibition, got to shoot against FBI agents, CIA agents. So it was so much stuff. I was so used to being active, and then out of nowhere, I was just done. It was just over. And I think when I got out, I'll let my wife tell her own story, but she ended up going to do some great things, and we ended up moving to Seattle. And when I moved to Seattle, I was lost because this is retired Paris Harrington, no longer Staff Sergeant. Oh, by the way, I did get selected for E7. And the funny thing about that, after I got selected for E7, right before I had to get out, my master guns, they came and talked to me and they were like, "Yo, man, you got selected, but it's not gonna matter because the only way it's gonna matter is through your ID card because you're not gonna hold the rank for more than 36 months." So I think I was gonna get promoted in January and I get retired in February. And then I talked to someone dear to me and they were like, "Yo, man, you're really gonna be holding back somebody's career." And I was like, "Why would you say that?" They were like, "Yo, the reason why is because technically if you take that quota, somebody else won't get promoted till next year. And that could be the difference in them progressing in a year and being able to help other Marines out." So I ended up giving up my spot for E7. And then I actually got to talk to the guy that got promoted. And I just asked him, "Hey, man, I'm giving up my slot. I'm medically retiring in a month. And I would just appreciate it if you just do the right thing when no one's looking and continue to motivate, to inspire to motivate Marines. Because if I can't do it and I'm giving you the spot to do it, that's all I asked." And he was like, "Yeah, man, I appreciate it." And I think the guy ended up, I think that was for E7. So I think he's an E8 now, which is pretty good. I mean, definitely good. So, but when I went up, we ended up getting out to Seattle. We stayed out there for about 3, 4 years. My first year out, man, I had started gaming big time. Started my game chat or my game channel. A lot of people know what is H's World, and it was fun, man. It was fun for a while. I was like, man, I could just sit back and relax and max relax for the rest of my life. I ain't got to worry about nothing. I'm retired. And this is where I learned this powerful thing called having goals, because it sounds good to be able to say, hey, I got the money coming in, or I got this coming in, and I wanted to sit back and max relax. But when you're actually doing it, man, you just feel obsolete. Like not having any type of goal or having any type of aspiration to go towards is a powerful thing. Like I didn't realize how fulfilling the Marine Corps was until it was no longer there. And it wasn't that I needed the Marine Corps, but I was helping so many people. I was helping young men and young women that came into the Marine Corps at the age of 18, 19, 17. And I was helping mold them into being like just self-efficient people. You know, some of these people had never been away from home. So I'm there helping them become, hey, look, this is how you do this. This is how you do this. This is how this is what you got to do when you buy a car. This is what you got to do when you dealing with money. This is what you got to do when, when you're holding a leadership billet. Whatever it is, I was helping. And when that was taken away, I didn't realize I needed that in my life. So finding that passion again was very hard for me. But I ended up finding it. I think I sat playing video games for about a year. Ended up starting a 2K league. Shout out to all the people that had joined that league, man. We made some great friends off of that. And then I didn't grow bored of it. It just we ended that season, and then I was getting ready to move again. We were getting ready to move down here to Huntsville, but um, I ended up getting a job working at the PX because I was like, you know what, I'm getting bored at staying at home. I could be making some extra money, so I'm just gonna get a job just enough time where Samaya is at school, but I'll still be able to pick her up. I want to be able to drop my daughter off and pick her up. So I got a job working at the PX on the base out there, which is like the exchange or like a Walmart on base. And I ended up working that from like 2 to like, or from like 8 to 2 every day. So I drop my daughter off, go to work, and then get off and then go pick her up, and then I be relaxing with me, her, and a wifey. But the more that I started going to that job, the more I started to realize how I felt like my leadership was being wasted, right? It's nothing wrong with me working that job. It's just I saw so many issues going on. I saw issues going on in the management area and, the lowest level, the highest level. And I'm just like, bro, I could fix these problems, but it wasn't my job to do. And I didn't realize how much I missed being not in charge, but just being able to give a reasonable answer and a reasonable solution to a problem that people feel like it cannot be solved, right? So a lot of people don't know this about me. I have something called Doctor Strange syndrome, right? And I always say that to people all the time. And the reason why I say I got Doctor Strange syndrome is because I can hear a problem and I can come up with 1,000 solutions in my head, different outcomes. And within like 10, 15, 20 seconds, I can literally just like no bull just come up with the best possible solution. And I would say 9 times out of 10 it works. 9 times out of 10 that solution works, and it's the best possible outcome, not just to get the right solution, but to make sure that both sides that are having the issue can meet in the middle, accomplish the goal, and to continue pushing forward in a cordial manner, right? So I think that's what kind of started pushing me for that. So I started working there and it was good, but I just wasn't getting that feeling like I wasn't. I feel like I was still just, running on a treadmill. Then I started working for the government up there, the Washington National Guard. I got my first foot in the door with a government job. And when I tell you it was amazing, the job was called the IPPW, which is the Integration Primary Prevention Workforce, where we went around and we kind of helped with some of the issues going on in the military, such as sexual assault, sexual harassment, workplace violence, family violence, child abuse, suicide prevention. And that job was so rewarding. And shout out to my former boss. She gave me the opportunity into the government realm, and I'm very appreciative of everything that she taught me, that she guided me on. And I know we helped change a lot of lives out there in Washington. And now I work for the government down in Alabama. So my biggest passion, my biggest goal right now, obviously spending time with the fam, but also just pushing towards this PhD. And like I tell everybody, I started going to school because the military pays for it, right? They pay you with the GI Bill. If you're not taking advantage of the GI Bill, we're going to make sure you go do that. But the more I started going to school, like especially with criminal justice, I was a 13-year law enforcement police officer. So trying to tell me as a police officer that's been doing it for 13 years that how to do something in school, I was like, you really can't teach me nothing. Boy, was I wrong, right? And the reason why I was wrong is because I knew the physical side of being a police officer. But when it came to the actual verbiage, when it came to the actual history, when it came to a lot of the stuff that went with it, I was just dumbfounded, right? I didn't know the actual, hey, what is this called when you're outside of a house and you can't enter the property? I never knew. I just knew in my head, hey, you can't do that. You can't walk on somebody's property in their yard and start searching without a warrant. I didn't know it's called like cultrich, or I'm saying the word wrong, but the area outside of the house where a person cannot enter, right? So it was stuff like that I learned. I learned how to, not really speak better, but just be able to talk to different people from different backgrounds in a short amount of time. So from there, man, I started really looking at school. And when I got my associates, I was like, yo, I can do this. So pushed for my bachelor's, ended up getting my bachelor's. And when I got my bachelor's, I was sitting in the crowd and I was like, you know what? I saw 3 people walk across the stage that were getting their PhD. And all of them were like late fees. And I was like, they called the last one name and I was like, I'm doing it. I'm doing it, bro. I'm doing it. I'm going to get my PhD. It was that. There's no other reason. It wasn't some career that was hovering over my head that wanted, needed it. It wasn't because somebody had promised me something. It was just, I saw these 3 dudes walk across the stage, or 4 dudes, 3 or 4, and they were getting their PhD. And I was like, if they can do it, I can do it. That was it. And from there, I started pushing. Found a supposed to be 1-year program down here at Alabama A&M for my master's, and just currently looking for my, trying to get my PhD. So from there, I think one of the biggest goals is just to get this podcast kicking and to be able to sit down and just talk to people in an intellectual manner. We're going to have some drinks on here. We're going to have some fun on here. We're going to talk about some pretty cool subjects. And the goal is just to get through a season. And maybe a season will turn into 2, and 2 will turn into 3. And like a call to action, I'm going to ask everybody today is to share this video, share this post, and just follow it, and just be ready for some great conversations, because whenever you sit down on Life Untold, I mean, you're gonna definitely get some conversation. So on that note, I appreciate everybody coming in. Thank you for all the inspiration throughout the years, and for a lot of people don't know it, but I will be reaching out. So peace.